Welcome to this video, a new part of the Chess Giants series, presenting great games from the past. Games that should have instructive value, but also should simply be there to enjoy. And yeah, for a little bit of entertainment value, watching great games. Yeah, let's get right into the thick of it. This is a game between Larsen and Petrosian. This was played in 1966. Let me think about this. Yes, Petrosian at the time the world champion. Larsen in the late 60s was competing with Bobby Fischer as being the best player of the Western Hemisphere. It in fact wasn't so clear. Only in the 1970s, when Fischer started his famous run for the World Championship, it wasn't that clear really that Fischer was any better than Larsen. Both had excellent results and regularly competed for first prizes in tournaments. It was in fact a total sensation that Fischer managed to beat Larsen 6-0 in 1971, I think it was. Let's look at this game from 1966. Larsen Petrosian. Also, when we say, okay, it wasn't clear who was better, we also need to take into account that they didn't have any rating system back then. They just could only compare results, let's say, but you couldn't compare ratings. Let's see what happened here. Larsen Petrosian played in Santa Monica, 1966. Yeah, we have an open Sicilian, and Petrosian plays here with g6, the accelerated dragon, and we get the Maroczy bind with c4. Here black has a wide choice of lines that he can play. Nowadays, the most popular line here is d6. Maybe back then it also was the most popular line. d6, bishop e2, castles, and then the capture here, and bishop d7, or bishop d7 before capturing. This kind of position. Petrosian played a different line. He went for knight to g4. Yeah, quite a funny looking move, and starting some tactics. Yeah, black is threatening to take e3. White must take this knight. There is no choice. And now black takes on d4. Yeah, here there is the threat of knight c2 check, and also the threat that this d pawn might move. White really has nothing else. He must retreat back to d1. And yeah, now the knight on d4 is attacked. Yeah, black now has three options. He can play knight e6 as in the game, can retreat to c6 or play e5. Yeah, the move knight c6 is definitely possible. It just gets to the typical Maroczy structure, with white having this space advantage. Also, it is very well known that exchanging one pair of knights is quite okay for black. So this is definitely a playable variation. However, white definitely enjoys a slight edge due to his space. e5 is a very sharp option. White here has possibilities like knight b5, after which black castles. Very sharp stuff. Back then this wasn't really explored. And there's knight e6. This was played by Petrosian. It's quite funny that this also was a favorite of Larsen's somewhat later. He also played this line at the time, but later Larsen played knight e6 quite a number of times. Okay, white is playing queen d2, and now Petrosian plays d6. This is the conservative move. Queen a5 is what later made this variation an interesting battleground. The idea is that after rook c1, b6, bishop e2, bishop e7, f3, black plays g5. Looks kind of crazy, but it's very interesting. g5 prepares a centralization of this bishop. and a very unique position that can only arise exactly from this opening and this line. The very strange situation. White, however, is believed to be better here. Nowadays, I mean, back then it wasn't clear. D6 is, as mentioned, a bit more conservative. Petrosian is not the kind of guy who plays stuff like G5. So bishop E2, bishop D7, they both castled. Larsen now played rook A to D1. This is definitely a good move. Alternatively, I'd like to suggest B4. Now this also is possible. What black wants to do here is he needs to improve this knight on E6. The knight on E6 really only has one decent square, and that's C5. Black wants to get in knight to C5, A5, bishop C6. That's his setup that has been proved to be very resilient. And the problem is, he wants to get it in, but it's not so easy to do. After rook A D1, black here faces the idea of C5. Yeah, if black plays a sort of nothing move, then C5 is a very interesting option using this D-file pressure. That's also why Petrosian is reacting to that. He played the bishop C6. I think here Larsen definitely played a good move. Knight D5 is not a mistake, centralizing the knight. But I think here he should have probably already taken the chance to play B4. Gaining this big space on the queen side. Of course, you can argue that black could take, but that's not really the case. If we look at this, bishop h6 is very problematic for black. After rook e8, the move bishop g4 is absolutely deadly. We threaten to take here and mate on g7. And after f5, rook fe1, the threat of rook takes e4 is killing black completely. Yeah, this is just complete win. So he could have played b4, tactically justified. And this is all about the knight on e6, which is a very unlucky piece. Yeah, knight d5 was played, and here Petrosian played the move rook e8. And this move is a bit mysterious. I understand that black wants to protect e7 so that maybe he can move the queen away sometime. And sometimes also the rook here is a little bit better than on f8. But here he had a chance, and the chance he definitely should have taken. He should have played knight to c5. This is much better in comparison. The reason is that black is winning a tempo now with the attack on the e4 pawn. Yeah, there's f3, and then a5 is the key move that black needs to get in. Now b4 is prevented, and he has established this knight on c5. Yeah, it still stays the Maroczy bind, and I'm slightly biased there because it's one of those openings where with white I have like a 90% score and never lost a game in tournament chess. I always feel that white should be very comfortable, but this is the kind of setup that proves to be very tough to break down with a5 in. And white here does not have much of an alternative. If he plays queen c2, we come to an interesting situation. Here black can even play the move a5. Very interesting spot. The key point is that white now, after bishop takes, d takes, knight f6, can win the queen. But if you look at this position, bishop f6, rook d8, rook f takes d8, this is a position where black has one bishop and a rook for the queen, but nevertheless has an excellent compensation. Black here enjoys permanent control over the d4 square and simply has more ideas than white has. White has a very bad bishop on e2 and not one clear plan how to proceed, while black can try to play on the d-file, a4, rook a6, b6, all kinds of ideas. Nowadays, computers understand that black has a compensation, but this is the type of position where maybe a computer will easily hold white's position together. But in a practical game, I think black is very comfortable. He just is easier to play. Petrosian made a mistake here, played rook e8, and this is missing this knight c5 chance. Larsen now went with f4. A good move, yeah? Gaining space. b4 was a very good alternative again. Knight c7 was played. And now f5. This is very strong, very powerful chess. White is taking lots of space, and the black knight cannot return anymore to e6. f5 looks in some way a bit dubious, maybe, to some, because it gives up control over the e5 square. Yeah, this is also why a move like that should be considered very carefully. You cannot really put the pawn back to f4, and the e5 square can be tricky. However, the piece that really wants to be there is a knight, and the black knight is not coming there, not ever. From c7, this is very difficult to establish or to try from c7. Petrosian now played knight a6, which ultimately is not really great, or let's say it's not improving his position. It is, however, very difficult here to give him some advice. Probably, relatively speaking, the capture was best. et, of course, e takes d, yeah? White wants to have this pressure on the e file maybe coming. C takes d is just very lame. Bishop d7 and bishop d3, this kind of position. Here f4, f5 is a useful advance, and this might easily be the prelude to a very dangerous kinside attack. If we imagine something like bishop to h6, rook f3, rook f1, rook h3, white has space advantage on the king side and will use the space advantage to build his attack based on that. Black has very hard time to defend this position, but it was probably better than the game. He went to a6, and the idea is not putting it on the edge of the board, but go here, oops, not there. Let's try this again, to e5 ultimately. So Petrosian has a clear defensive idea, but it is ultimately not working. Yeah, his problem really was that he missed the chance to play knight c5. This was a big error. Yeah, here it is White's move. What should he play? Larsen's move is very interesting and original, and it is, however, in some way great that he played it, because without the move we would have the final, the end of the game, which is super spectacular, wouldn't be on the board. But objectively speaking, his next move is a mistake. Larsen now played bishop to g4. Yeah, and a somewhat mysterious move. One idea is that White wants to capture on g6, and on f takes g6 he wants bishop e6 check. This is the idea, and after f takes g6, h takes g6, the idea was to go queen f2 to h4 with a tempo. We will see this in the game. The ideas of the move are pretty much clear when we look at this later. However, it turns out that black has probably decent chances to defend. Not easy to defend, but he has chances to do so. Better was b4. Again, absolutely making sure that this knight is not coming to c5 and just keeping it out of play. After b4, White's position becomes overwhelming. I guess what black must do is knight c7 back. It looks really ugly, but probably he needs to do that. There are other things that directly lead to disaster. This move, for example, if you want to try this to get to e5, White is pushing b5, and this, for example, is an immediate kill. b7 hangs and f7 hangs. Yeah, plus c5, just far too much. Yeah, or bishop d7. Alternatively, there is bishop d4, and this intends to push f6. Yeah, it's absolutely not defensible. Something like this, for example, might look like it should hold, but there is also c5 with bishop c4 coming, cd6 coming. It's falling apart. You know, those pieces don't play. b4 was a very strong move, but bishop g4 was also interesting. Very original solution. Typically a bit typical of Larsen's style. He very often came up with a solution that nobody else really could think of, but they were very often excellent choices. Yeah, knight c5. This is the right move, and now captured on g6. This was the idea. Takes. Queen f2. All this is according to plan, and all based on concrete lines. Yeah, f7 hangs, so there's not much else. Black must play rook back to f8. And here Larsen comes up with a great concept, really. He had some simple choices here. Let's look at some. The first move that maybe comes to mind is to take. Yeah, just grab here and look from here. White here can think again of this this idea, winning the queen. Yeah, needs to be checked. I mean, we win the queen, but after bishop takes, rook takes, rook takes, white cannot take on c5, as bishop d4 wins the queen. So he must play a queen move or king move, and after that black is easily occupying the d4 square and has fantastic play. This is just better for black. Yeah, rook and bishop are perfectly harmonized here. c6, f6. It's a totally stable position, and black has a great game here, and it's in addition much easier to play. It's not just objectively good, but also much easier to play as your pieces coordinate well. So the queen win is absolutely unacceptable for white. What is the most obvious move here? Queen h4, I guess, is the most obvious. After queen h4, black, however, has a defense. He can take on d5, and now after rook takes, which is the move white probably wants to play, being the most dynamic, black has to move e6, and suddenly the whole game turns into black's favor. The queen here queens looking at each other, so h4 is attacked and the rook is attacked. White really has nothing better than to trade queens, and after rook retreat you even drop the pawn. So a very disappointing result for white. Queen h4 is simply not so great. And so what did Larsen do? He played a great move. He played e5. Yeah, this is a mysterious looking move. What is the idea of it? Yeah, it's quite remarkable. Black takes on e5 with the bishop. Yeah, and queen h4. Almost the same thing. The difference is that there is no e4 pawn anymore, and the bishop is on d5. The big difference is that after bishop takes d5, which was played and should be played, rook takes d5. Now here, the move e6 is a different story. If black now plays e6, then white has the additional idea after this to play rook takes e5. This is why e5, bishop takes e5, was inserted to get the bishop to e5 and get this this interesting transformation in. Yeah, but how is this to be assessed? I think that black is in fact quite okay here. It's an interesting position that black could have played. Look at this. Takes, bishop takes, probably rook c8, activating the rook. And now white, should drop back. Bishop takes, maybe bishop to d1, getting over to b3. This is a very interesting position. White has two bishops against rook and two pawns, but black is pretty compact. He does not have very substantial pawn weaknesses, and the rooks are positioned on open files. Maybe it is a bit better for white. If anybody, maybe white, but it is not clear at all. So this was playable for black, definitely. Petrosian, however, chose the move knight to e6, getting this knight back into the defense. It seems that this move was also okay, but it means to really play a tightrope, walking on a tightrope defense. Yeah, e6 was simpler, as it simply stops the direct attack. And now this is exactly what Larsen is going for. Just yeah, checkmate mode. Rook f3 to h3, queen h7 mate. Crude, but very, very dangerous. Yeah, what should black do now? How to defend? Very, very tough for black. This exactly is the key position. The move that Petrosian now is playing is losing the game, but very, very difficult to see. I mean, he was a fantastic player, so it's not like he blundered here some easy stuff. Black only has one defense, really. It's just one move that keeps the position together, and it requires extreme accuracy even afterwards. The move is f5. Yeah, it looks like it's totally weakening black's game, but what he needs to do is he definitely needs an additional square for the king. If you look at this for a while with the computer, you don't come to a totally clear conclusion, but it seems that black is at least holding on and shouldn't lose to a mate or something. Let's have a look. Rook h3. This must be the critical move, threatening the direct mate. Black now can play two moves: knight g7 or king f7. They, by the way, can transpose. King f7, for example. What can white do here? At first, you think that bishop takes f5 might be strong. Let's look at this. It's quite a funny line. Bishop takes f5, g takes, queen h5. It looks totally devastating at first. King f6, the only move that is not losing immediately. This is, of course,
checkmate.
A mate, yeah. You absolutely must go, oops, to f6. This looks like black should be mated, but it's not. There's nothing apparent how this should work. There's, of course, many perpetual checks for white, but there is no way to a checkmate. g4 looks very dangerous, intending to play g5 or queen takes f5. But yeah, dangerous it might look. But knight g7 is somehow saving the day. It's really a remarkable position. The best for white is to give this check here and get in here. White is a piece down, yeah. Don't forget that. Bishop f6, and now the capture. The king is just about to escape on this, just about escaping on d7. Bishop f6, rook f6, queen g7, and now queen g8. And this is the key move that that saves black at the end. We get the queens off, and here we have a situation where black is a pawn down, but he has good chances of getting a pawn back. Yeah, f5, c4, those pawns can easily get lost. Here white does not have anything special. Note that here the king is well placed on d7, actually joining the action. A very long line and exceptionally difficult to calculate. King f7 is one possibility. By the way, after king f7, white of course does not need to take on f5. It's a very interesting line, but there is also queen h7. This is a position that we will see soon after this move. This is the alternative to king f7. Here white can give the check, or he can play bishop f3. Bishop f3 was an interesting alternative there. Queen h7, king f7, rook h6 is another interesting way to try to mate black. But after the capture, queen g6 and king g8, it turns out that there is not much better than this perpetual. It is just a draw. White has no way to further improve his attacking formation. Rook h7, queen e8. It's a pretty simple refutation. So after knight g7, there's probably bishop f3 that needs to be played. After bishop f3, black should probably continue with king f7. There are alternatives, but this is probably the best. King f7, and now it can continue rook b5, and now b6. Yeah, funny. Black is allowing this capture. But if we look at this, if white is taking the exchange after queen takes, it's clear that the big attack now has been diffused. Yeah, there is no mating attack anymore, and black has a pawn for the exchange. Something that Petrosian, of course, was very much used to. Was the master of the exchange sacrifice. White can play for an advantage here, but it's not a decisive thing. It's still a fight. This is what black absolutely needed to do. He needed to play f5 in order to defend. Petrosian played bishop f6, and it's not like it's immediately apparent why this should be a mistake, but we will see that black, in fact, now is beyond saving. Queen h6 was played, and now white just threatens bishop takes e6 and queen takes g6. Yeah, the very idea of bishop g4 was to control those squares and get this attacking ideas going. Black really has a hard time to defend against that. Also, there is just rook h3 threatened, of course. So black cannot play a move like this here after queen after rook h3. It's just going to be
checkmate.
Quick mate coming. So a very dangerous position. Yeah, Petrosian played bishop g7. He was absolutely relying on this move. However, now we come to the exact position that is always shown in books when this game is displayed. White now has a fantastic move. Maybe you can think of it yourself. I'm going to show it now. White now played the great move queen takes g6 for a queen sacrifice. That's very nice. Now, what happens if black captures? He didn't capture, but what happens if he does? Bishop takes e6. Yeah, and now black really is in big trouble. If he moves the king, there is just this coming. Yeah, this is threatening bishop takes f8 mate. Yeah, a great attacking formation with bishops and rook. Fantastic. So he cannot even just move the king. You must play rook f7. And here white can take with check. Yeah, going to the h file is the same thing. Rook h3.
Check.
And this here is a decisive attack. Black has absolutely no defense. Note that the queen also has no square to go to. Yeah, something like this, for example, is answered by
check.
And wins. Yeah, very nice. This is just an overwhelming attack. Petrosian tried something funny. He played the desperado knight f4. It's almost the same thing now. Rook takes. Now he took the queen and the check. So we have almost the same position, just the rook being on f4 instead of f3. Yeah, he played rook f7. It's the same thing. If he would play this,
check.
is the killer. Yeah, it's no difference of the rook being on h4 instead of being on h3. He went rook f7. Yeah, and here Larsen in fact had a choice. Bishop takes f7 was also winning, but he captured with the rook. This is also very convincing. Yeah, here the idea is to play a check here and go over to the h file. Petrosian tried king h8, and yeah, it's too late for any advice. I mean, if he plays, let's say, a queen move, there is really not much. Then okay, the rook e7 is very simple. Yeah, where should he go? There is really nothing. Maybe here, and then we have this winning idea.
Check.
And again, we have the crossfire mate. Yeah, he went to h8. And now Larsen finds a very nice winning maneuver. Rook to g5. The idea is rook g3, h3. Yeah, b5 played. Really, it does not matter. It's always the same. And now rook g3, intending rook h3, and it's over. Yeah, something like, let's say the queen moves somewhere. We have this.
Check. 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 Checkmate.
And a mate. Very nice. Rooks and bishops are killing the black king. Yeah, this is one of Larsen's most famous games. Deservedly so. It's a very nice finish to the game with queen takes g6. A fantastic move to get in. Yeah, and we see that it was due to bishop f6 that allowed the whole thing. However, we shouldn't underestimate the big pressure that black was on. I mean, all pieces are involved in the attack, and even for a defense wizard like Petrosian, the task was too difficult to solve. He didn't find the only way to defend the position. So a very nice game by Larsen. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. One of the most famous game of the great Danish Grandmaster. Yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon with new episodes of the series. Bye.